Good afternoon, everyone. It's Mental Health Week 2020, and I've got someone I really so much admire online with me today, Dr. Carlis Douglas. She's going to be talking to us about loss and grief and how we manage that, particularly around where we are right now as a nation. You know, all of us are going through different elements. But before we do, I want to just say something brief about her. I can't do justice to our bio this afternoon, but I will touch on, you know, the very poignant points that I think are just amazing and such a privilege to have her on. So Dr. Carlis Douglas, she has over 40 years experience in facilitating learning and changing individuals across UK, Europe, Africa, and Asia, and very, very passionate about disrupting the factors that produce and maintain exclusion or inequalities within the society. She's had been a visiting lecturer in Ashbridge Business School, University of Northampton, University of West of England, University of Bath, and the Tavistock Institute. And she's also a school governor in primary and secondary schools. Over the last 10 years, Dr. Carlis has evolved even more so. You know, when you just think most people want to just retire and just sit in the garden, no, she has evolved and responding to a call within the Black, African and Caribbean community around mental health, because she noticed that a lot of us are finding ourselves in mental health institutions, and she thought there was something that she could do to make a difference. So she set up and is the director of Hope Atrium, which runs a project called From Surviving to Thriving. And that has been a huge project in really raising awareness of mental health within our communities, but also raising mental health champions that can go into the community and help us navigate sometimes what feels like a minefield. So I'm so honored that Dr. Carlis is joining us today, and welcome again, Dr. Carlis. Good to have you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be invited to have this conversation with you, and as impressed by the things that you do, the range of different things. So it really is a pleasure to have the chance to speak with you about this, and also to speak about something that I really am passionate about and really want to make sure that people in our communities actually are very much more in touch with and able to talk about. To have conversations about these things, I think, is just so important.
It is, and there's so many areas we could talk about, and you know, I'm hoping this will be one of many sessions, because here at HarvestSprings as well, we're very passionate about raising that awareness and also bridging the gap between faith and mental health. You know, faith leaders, faith workers, faith community, how do we engage with this without denying our faith? So, but you and I were speaking the other day, and one of the things that really I felt was so poignant at this point in time in our nation and our world is, you know, around loss and grief. And you were sharing some of your own experiences around that. And I wonder whether you're able to share a bit more with us and tools that can help us to recognize and manage these things so that they don't escalate. We all know that, or at least you and I know, that early intervention is always going to be key in keeping our mental well-being at its highest form as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I think the conversation that we were having was about the impacts of this very, very unusual, unprecedented experience that we're going through of COVID-19, and the ways in which it's impacting us. And I think many of us may think, okay, well, I haven't become ill, and by that we mean physically ill, and so therefore I've escaped any impacts of it. But I think all around us we are being impacted psychologically by the experiences. I think the first thing I noticed was just how unusual the days felt, just in terms of the loss of structure, the sorts of things that I normally do. You know, the first Sunday that I wasn't going to go to church, and just having to think through, okay, so what will Sunday be like for me? And those are some of the things that, although they seem like small things, they actually collectively can be quite big. So there's just loss of the routines, loss of the habits, loss of having, if you have small children, I have a grandson who spends some time with me. And, you know, I know that he too has been struggling, because at the moment he's really missing his friends. He's missing school. He's discovering just how much he likes going to school. And although he's enjoying being with family, he actually really misses it. And so I can see a sadness beginning to appear. But I think for myself, the thing that really struck me was a few weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after lockdown, when my daughter said to me, "Mum, it seems as if you're not quite well." And I thought, that's really strange because I am feeling well. And she said, "No, you seem to be carrying something. You seem actually as if there's something that actually you need to deal with." And for a moment, I had no idea what she was talking about. But because I understand that sometimes feelings are not always apparent, to me anyway, because I spent a lot of years as someone from a Caribbean background. We've had very hard lives, and we've learned, I believe, often how to numb feelings. And for many years, I learned how to push feelings out of sight. I learned how to keep myself busy and not to feel. So with that in mind, I thought to myself, well, maybe I need to just stop. And so I thought, okay, let me just give myself some space. And that was the first thing, taking space. And that's something I believe that's so critically important in terms of managing our mental health. We are human beings, it's often said, not human doings, but a lot of the time we're spending time being so caught up, being distracted. And even when we're not busy, you know, a lot of time is being spent watching Netflix or playing games or doing other things, but not taking time to actually know what we actually think and what we actually feel. So in my situation, one of the things I did was I thought, you know, I feel as if one of the things I want to do is go for a walk. And so I went for a walk. As I walked, I noticed the closed shops. I noticed the silence. It felt like such an oppressive silence on the high road. And I started to realize that I felt incredibly sad.
Wow.
And then before long, I could feel myself, I could feel the tears. And I realized I'm carrying so much sadness about what's happening. And then I thought, okay, I need to go to a park, one of my favorite places. And I went to that place and I looked at the lake and I walked around the lake. And something else happened, because as I did that, I realized this is just the same. And I realized finding a place of stability, a place that actually hadn't moved. So much in my life had suddenly moved and been disrupted. But actually this park, this place was just the same.
Wow.
And I learned two very powerful things. And this is what I want to pass on. The need for us to take time with ourselves, to actually become more self-aware, to allow ourselves, give ourselves permission to feel. And also, in that we might discover that we have uncomfortable feelings, but it's actually okay. It was okay for me to cry. It was okay for me to feel sad. And it was also okay, I realized, from following that inner voice and leading me, I discovered that the park, the lake, that was so familiar to me and so loved by me, was one of the ways of anchoring myself back into something that actually felt much more solid and much more grounded than COVID-19.
Wow. Wow. That is so useful to hear. And, you know, as you were speaking, I was thinking about that sense of stability, like when there are so many changes around you and uncertainties, and looking, and I believe that God is one thing that is stable as well, you know, apart from like physical things that we can lay hold of, which I think is really important. And perhaps sometimes even if we can't see those physical things, if we start from God and trace it, we will find things that have not really changed around us. Wow, that is so, so profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, in line with, you know, what you were just saying, are there other things that you think we should really be, you know, that we can use our tools at this point, you know, taking that time out, finding things that are stable, that haven't really changed? Anything else that you could offer us?
Yes, I think one other thing I did mention, but I want to underline it, is giving ourselves permission to feel. Because as I mentioned, everybody, I believe, is being impacted. There are some people who are carrying huge amounts of losses. And by that, I mean some people who physically lost people, and some people have lost many people in their friendship group and in their families. So it's critically important, not only whether or not we have had that type of loss of a human being, it's really important for us to get in touch with our own other types of losses. It might be a loss of job, or as I said, in terms of my grandson's case, it's a loss of routine. It's a loss of being able to see his friends. And as he said to me, there's some friends I haven't spoken to for weeks, and he's missing them. And I think that when we are not giving ourselves permission to actually feel our own sadness, to feel our own sense of disorientation, it's really difficult to support children and young people who are around us. So I think, yes, there are a number of other things that we could do. One other thing I think is being patient with yourself. And that again is a very personal thing for me. I found, and I'm still finding, that sometimes the amount I produce in a day, I feel quite dissatisfied with. But then I actually have to notice that there's a lot of other stuff, you know, things, whether it's about a number of other things which I have to pay attention to, which are around part of the ways in which our lives have changed. Shopping has become much more challenging, for instance, than it was previously. Things like the amount of keeping things clean and hygienic and all of those things, the level of cleaning that we need to do has increased. And so being able and willing to be compassionate with myself and not to have the same level of expectations as we had. You know, some people are having to go to work and maybe feeling quite anxious. And so the loss of that calmness, the loss of that taken for grantedness about some of those things, I just feel that we need to be compassionate with ourselves. And yes, and patient.
Yeah, that has been really useful. Permission to feel, so key, because if we don't feel, we can't do anything about it. And being patient, these things can take time to resolve. Wow, thank you so much for that. We're going to bring this session to a close, but I'm looking forward to having you more on some of our series on mental health when that starts. And it would just be so useful to hear really the simple nuggets that we can practice within our community that would help us to stay, healthy when it comes to our mental well-being. So thank you so much, Dr. Carlis Douglas, for coming on
Before we
today.
do that, though, before we close, just want to mention that there are organizations out there who actually, if we are very distressed, and it doesn't have to be a big thing for us to be distressed. It might be some of the things in terms of the uncertainties around work. I might have had, great plans for this year, might have been in the process of putting them into action, and suddenly I can't see where it's going to go. And that might be the thing that destabilizes me and is producing the distress that I feel. I just want to encourage people to know that there are organizations out there. One of the organizations I know at the moment, they're called Living Loss. They deal with, if you've lost a person, but also if you've lost things in your life that are important, they really are very useful places to go and to have conversations with them. I know they're doing Zoom conversations at the moment, and they're called Living Loss. They can be found on the net.
Okay.
And there are other organizations like Cruise who do bereavement counseling. So just to let people know that there are resources.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carlis. Yes, those organizations, if you don't mind, just letting me have those so we can add them to the video screen so that people can actually take them down apart from listening to it. I am so grateful, so privileged to have you on this afternoon. Thank you so much, and look forward to having more sessions like this.
Okay.
Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
You're
thank
welcome.
you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.